Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live. And today I'm going to show you a card that I actually cased a bit of from the new mini catalog. So if you have your catalog and you happen to go take a peek at the page with the Garden Greenhouse stamp set bundle on it, you might recognize this stamp set or this card that I made with that stamp set. So like I said, I made a few changes to it, but not very many. I pretty much kept it right as it was because I really liked it and I thought it was really cute. So, all right, so this is the card that we're going to be making today. And let's talk real quickly about the stamp set bundle. So this is the Garden Greenhouse stamp, which it's a fun one. I mean, hey, Elise and Jeannie, I'm glad you're here. So glad from sunny Delaware. Yep, it's sunny and a little cooler here in New Jersey today too. So this is the Garden Greenhouse stamp set. It's got this cool greenhouse image. The images on the front of the stamp case are a little bit smaller. They're at 95%, so they're actually, the images are a little bigger than what they show on the stamp case. But so we got this fun little greenhouse, and then there are some kind of greenery and flower images that go with it, and some cute sentiments as well. So it's one of the distinctive stamps, so you'll see that you kind of get a little bit of kind of a layered stamping look without actually having it be layered and having to do multi-step stamping on it. But it's a cute little stamp set. And hey, Kay, thanks for joining, and Jill as well. And I'm sure I missed a couple of others. And I see Julie is here, and Barbara and Mary. So thanks so much for hopping in today. So, all right, so this is the die set that coordinates with it. They're bundled together in the upcoming January to June 2022, which is still, I still can't believe I'm saying 2022, mini catalog. And like I said, they're bundled together. So this die coordinates with this one, and they layer one on top of the other. This die cuts out this larger image. This one cuts out this image. This one cuts out this image. What other? And then we've got the little flower images, all the stamped flower images you can cut out with dies as well. So it is a cute little stamp set, cute little die set, and kind of fun for anyone who likes flowers or greenhouses or is into gardening or anything like that. All right, so let me set the die set over here so that I can use that when I need it. A couple other things that I used on this card. I used the scalloped contours dies. Oops, I'm holding it upside down even. And I used the second largest one here with the little dots on it. So it's the second largest of the rectangle dies from that set. Hey, Karen, thanks for hopping in today. And then the sentiment I actually cut out with one of the dies, the openings in the die from the messages die. So this is one, it's from the annual catalog, but it's one big, huge, solid die. There are two stamp sets that coordinate with it, that you can stamp the whole thing, die cut the whole thing, and then you get a whole pile of sentiments you can just put on cards. But I tend to use it just because I don't plan ahead very well. I tend to use it and just cut a little piece of cardstock that fits underneath the area where I want to stamp and die cut. And that's how I use this die instead of doing the whole great big thing all at once. So, all right, so let me set that aside as well. A couple things before we get going. The retiring products are from the current July to December 2021 mini catalog are all available while supplies last, and quite a few things are selling out, sadly. I mean, stamp sets even are starting to go. So make sure that you're getting on buying any of those last chance items that you are interested in that are retiring here soon. Hey, Marilyn, thanks for joining. And then we have the Eden's Garden stamp set bundle and coordinating designer paper and whole suite of products. This is an early release from the upcoming mini catalog that's available to everyone to purchase now. So we have the stamp set and dies, and these are bundled together in the upcoming mini catalog as well. So these are going to be around for a little while. The beautiful Every Eden specialty designer series paper and cotton paper and garden gems are only while supplies last through January 3rd. And they're beautiful, and so you want to get them before they go away. If you want the entire suite, there is one number that you can put in for the entire suite. Otherwise, you can order each item individually, however you want to do it. And then the last thing that I wanted to chat with you about was my Designer Series paper shares. I am doing Designer Series paper shares again from the upcoming mini catalog. The details are all posted out on my blog, and I'll make sure that there's a link to the designer paper shares in my blog post for this card as well, so you can go take a peek at that. The designer paper shares, it's a really good way to get just a sampling of all of the new Designer Series paper from the upcoming catalog at way less than it would cost you if you bought all of them individually. So it's 6x6 shares. I also have 6x12 shares, so a double share that are available as well. And there's one paper that's cut to 4x6, so I can't change the shape of that one. So anyway, but the details are all posted, prices and when you sign up, how you sign up is all posted on my blog. So go take a peek out there. All right, let's get started on the card finally after all my yapping. So I've got a card base that is just jade, and it is cut to 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4.25. So I did that ahead of time. This is a piece of the name just flew right out of my brain. Artfully Composed designer series paper from the upcoming catalog. It's actually in with the suite of, it's kind of tropical images in the suite. So it's a really pretty paper, but a good general one, and the colors in it are great. And that was actually where I pulled the colors for the card from, was I just used coordinating colors from that designer series paper, which is always nice. So hey, Corinne and Jan, thanks for hopping in and joining today as well. So we're going to use a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue, and I'm going to put it all over the card front. And the designer series paper is cut to 4.25 by 5.5, so it should cover the entire card front. And again, it's a little more of one of the neutral patterns, and just going to put that right here on the card front and hopefully get it lined up reasonably well. And that's why I use liquid glue on things like this when I'm doing a card front, so that it gives me a little extra second to make sure that everything is straight before it's stuck down forever and ever. All right, next up we're going to do a little stamping with the fun little garden greenhouse stamp set, if I can find the stamp set, or stamp that is. All right, I've got Just Jade ink, and this is the larger kind of florally, greenery, leafy, whatever you want to call it, image from that stamp set. And I'm going to ink it in Just Jade ink, hopefully. I'm going to stamp it on scrap paper, and then I'm going to stamp it here on a piece of basic white cardstock. I don't need to be very particular about where I stamp it. I just want to make sure that it's going to fit on my die cut, that's all. So I tend to start with a little bit of an oversized piece of cardstock, just so that I don't shortchange myself and end up with something having to cut it in a way that I don't like because I've cut it too small. All right, so that is the base. Then I've got the smaller leaf image and mint macaron ink, and we are going to be stamping a couple of these over the top of the previously stamped image here. So again, because these are lighter, I didn't feel like I needed to stamp them off. You can choose to stamp them off if you want to. I didn't, just because I felt like they didn't show up. I tried it actually stamped off, but they didn't show up as well as I wanted them to. So instead of stamping them off, I just stamped them full strength over the top. But again, if you don't like that look and prefer to have it be a little lighter, you can definitely do whatever you like with it. All right. Next up, I did some die cutting. So let me grab my scalloped contours dies, and again I use the second largest of the dies, and I'm going to cut it here. And the only thing that I want to make sure is that I've got it a little bit slid to the right, or the image is a little bit to the right. Again, placement is never going to be exact unless you use the Stamparatus and are an excellent die cutter. I am not that good at getting everything straight and lined up exactly where I want it every single time. So I just kind of go based on this is close enough. So all right, so that is how I lined it up. So I just took it and then tried to line it up so that the bottoms of the little stems were close to the bottom, or close to the edge of this die cut. So again, no specific placement on it, just kind of put it on here and tried to get it slid over to the right a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to be off screen for a second, doing a little die cutting. And hopefully y'all are enjoying your Tuesday. It's been fairly quiet around here. My husband had to go into the office today, so he hasn't been on his usual conference calls upstairs that I've been able to hear all day long. So, all right, let me get the die cut picked up and over here. And, oh, there are my dies. Set that aside as well. Next up, I did this piece a little bit ahead, but I wanted to explain to you how I did it. So this piece is actually cut with the greenhouse dies, and this is just cut from white vellum. So white vellum cardstock, just a basic die cut. This die cut, which is a little more intricate, you can cut it and try to use liquid glue if you're really good at using liquid glue. I am not. I'm kind of messy at it, and I was really worried with how thin and narrow all these little lines were in here that I would just have glue everywhere. which I would because I'm just messy with the liquid glue. So I actually used adhesive sheets, and I stuck them on the back of, I cut the piece of paper to about 3 by 3 and then just covered the back of it, most of the back of it. I don't know that I covered every single inch of it, although I guess I got most of it, with the adhesive sheets. And then I ran it through my die cutting machine that way. Now, I will tell you that I did run this back and forth about 4 times total. So I ran it through, ran it back, ran it through, ran it back. And then all the pieces pretty well came out of it pretty easily. The only parts that were a little sticky were the little ones up here at the top, and then these little kind of dash looking lines. But the little dash lines I found were really easy to get out because this is a fairly flexible die. So as soon as I went like this, the little die cut popped up and I just picked it right out. So it's not terribly fiddly, but I just wanted to warn you that it's not a super simple die to use either. So hopefully that makes sense. But I've got the adhesive sheets already attached to the back of this because I put them on before die cutting, which I actually remembered for a change, only because I was standing there looking at it and going, there's no way I'm going to be able to glue this without making a huge mess. So, and because I'd put them on ahead of time, all you do then is just peel it off and the back of it turns into a sticker. All right, so this is the other piece of it, maybe, if I can get it peeled off. There we go. There, that's what was sticking on it. All right, now I did have right here, there's one of the little dots in here that kind of flipped itself and curled over on the back, and that's okay. Just pick it off. You can use your little take your pick tool or whatever it is. I use my fingers for a lot of things because, I don't know, they're attached to me and I find them easy to use. So, all right, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up here at the bottom and just lay it on the top. And I'm not going to smoosh it down everywhere just yet until I know that it's in the spot where I want it to be. Again, this die is a little bit flexible, so you can kind of maneuver it around a little. At least that's what I found when I put it down. If I just gently set it down and then kind of use my fingers to slide it exactly into the spot where I wanted it, then it was really easy to adhere. And that's all there is to it. So it's pretty simple, but just wanted to give you a couple little tips on it. Again, if you're good with liquid glue, you can probably put some little dots where these meet at and be okay. I was just worried about all these little pieces around the edges that it wouldn't stick down if I didn't use the adhesive sheets. So thankfully I remembered the adhesive sheets and it made it really super quick to put together. All right, so we've got that part done. We're going to do a little stamping, and I've got a few pieces die cut and stamped ahead of time as well. So I'm going to take this image, which I had stamped in mint macaron, and I'm going to clean my stamp here over on my chamois. And yeah, I thought the vellum was perfect too. And again, I totally stole the idea from the catalog. I can't even claim any of it as my own because I just looked in the catalog and I'm like, that is so cute. And I couldn't not do it that way. So I've got just jade ink and a little scrap of basic white cardstock here. And I'm going to ink up the smaller of the leaf images, stamp it on the basic white, and get that out of the way. And then I'm going to die cut that with the coordinating die from the Greenhouse Dies. And again, it's this one that's the coordinating die to that. So I'm just going to run this through my die cutting machine over here off to the right. And Ginny's in here snoring away, the dog, sleeping next to me. So hopefully she won't get up and start barking at everything. Hey Trudy, thanks for hopping in today. All right, so I've got my die cut done here. Okay. Now, I actually waited to adhere this to the panel here, and I'll show you why in 1 second. But we're going to take some glue dots and adhere all the little die cut pieces here. Maybe. There we go. So I'm just going to, I don't need to put tons and tons of glue dots on these because it's not like they're, it's not a 3D project where somebody's going to be opening and closing. But just want to put on a few so that they're fairly securely attached. So we'll start with 3 on this one. And then I just sort of leaned it off to the right a little bit and tried to line it up again fairly close to the bottom. I think we'll go about right there. Stick that down. Again, I'm using glue dots on these. And then I've got a couple of pieces that I die cut ahead of time. Again, these are from the Greenhouse Dies. And these are cut from mint macaron, and this one is cut from just jade cardstock. And they're super simple, cute little dies. Really easy to use. These were easy to pop out, so no trouble on these at all. And nothing special to know about how to cut them. Just chop them out with your, cardstock like you normally would. And I'm using a couple glue dots here again to adhere the die cuts to my little greenhouse. I'm going to take glue dots and stick the mint macaron one on. Maybe. There we go. All right, I think we'll lean that one a little bit further over like that. And then we're going to take the one that's the little thinner leaf, and I'm actually going to roll the glue dots for this one just because the leaves are a little thinner. And I don't want my glue dots to show, so I just roll it up with my finger and stick it on the back. Really easy to do with glue dots. Again, if you prefer liquid glue, you can definitely use it. I just don't, because I just make too much of a mess with liquid glue, so I tend to be any of the roller or glue dot adhesives that I can use, I do. All right, and I'm going to stick that one so it's leaning a little bit to the left. And then I stamped and cut ahead of time the couple of the little flowers. So these are stamped in pale papaya ink on basic white cardstock, and then cut with the coordinating greenhouse dies, which it's just this little die here. That die cuts it. So cute little flowers. So again, all the stamped little flowers that are in that stamp set have a coordinating die that goes with them, which is nice. Again, I'm just not a fussy cutting person, so I much prefer to have dies. So anything I can do with a die, I do. So, I love all the little die cuts too. I don't know. I know some people complain and don't like they think they're too fussy, and I'm like, nope, perfect. So, hey, Diane, I guess I hadn't even seen you hop on. So, and Linda, I'm glad you're here as well. All right, so I'm going to stick the other one on here again with a little glue dot, just tuck it up here in the flowers. And now I'm actually going to take my greenhouse and stick it to the card front. Now that I know where I've got my die cuts, I stuck it to my finger, where I have my die cuts placed on here so that I can make sure that I put my glue dots in a spot where they're not going to show through on the front. So that was kind of how I figured out where to put the glue dots rather than sticking it down and then trying to cover up the glue dots with my die cuts later. I figured it was easier to put the die cuts on first and then put the glue dots on the back and adhere it to the little die cut panel over here. So again, this was cut with the Scallop Contours dies, and the greenery pieces do kind of stick out the ends of the greenhouse, so don't panic. That's how it's supposed to look. So there you go. That's all adhered together, and I think we will go ahead and start sticking things to the card base. So I have got, again, I did my card base ahead of time, and we're just going to use a little bit of linen thread and wrap it twice around the card front. And I will chop it and try to tie a bow, hopefully. Sometimes I have more success than others with it. I want to make sure that my bow is pretty far over to the right-hand side because it's a fairly big die cut that I'm using. When I tie a bow with the linen threads or any of the little bit thinner baker's twines and that type of thing, I usually start with a knot first, just to hold it securely in place. And then I can make my bow and, pull on the ends of it and whatever. And I don't feel like I have to have 12 hands to hold everything in place. All right, so let me do that. Kind of fluff the bow a little bit. Now we'll definitely be trimming those ends a little bit as we get closer to putting it together, but I usually wait until the very end to do that. So next up, I'm going to take this and adhere it to the card front with some Stampin' Dimensionals. The only thing I want to be careful of with the Stampin' Dimensionals is to try not to have them end up right on top of that linen thread. So I'm just going to kind of put a couple higher, a couple lower, and make sure that it's open in the middle so that my linen thread can move around a little bit, but I'm not stuck on the top of it where it's got a weird lump in the die cut. So, all right. Glad that you guys are liking it. Like I said, I love the set. I thought it was really cute, and I'm not even really much of a gardening person, but I just really liked it. And I thought it was really pretty and really fun, and something that's different that I haven't seen Stampin' Up! Do before as a little greenhouse. So, all right. So that's it for most of the card front. I've got this sentiment left and a couple little embellishments, which you probably didn't even see those on there, and I forgot to talk about them, so we will in a second. Let me grab my sentiment. Again, it's from the Garden Greenhouse stamp set. Got Versamark ink, and we're going to do some heat embossing, and I'm sorry, my heat just turned on in my stamp room, so you can probably hear the heater running. All right, and this is Pale Papaya cardstock. And again, it's just a littler piece that I have trimmed out because I wanted to run it through with my messages die, which is a great big die. And I didn't want to waste a ton of cardstock, so I just trimmed a piece down. I don't know, it's about 1 inch wide by probably 4.5 inches long. And I've got white embossing powder from the Basics embossing powders. Just going to sprinkle that here on the sentiment. Give it a little tap to knock all the excess off, and I think I got most of it out of there. And I'm going to put the lid back on my embossing powder because, yes, if you accidentally hit your embossing powder with the heat tool, it flies everywhere. Or if you knock it over, it goes everywhere as well. Again, both things I've done and both things I would recommend you not do because it's a big mess. So, all right, the Stampin' Up! Heat tool has 2 settings on it. There's a level 1 setting for drying. So if you're doing something like watercoloring or something where you wanted it to dry a little bit faster, you can use the level 1 setting. The level 2 setting is for heat embossing, which is what we're going to do. So level 2 is a little bit hotter, and hopefully it's heated up enough here that I can get it to start heat embossing right away. All right, when you're heat embossing, you don't need to move it really quickly, but just want to make sure that you keep it moving so that you don't accidentally burn your embossing powder, because you can definitely do that. And that's it. And the heat embossing is all done once it turns kind of brighter and gets that shiny look to it. Actually, you know what? I see a spot right there that I didn't hit with the heat tool. So had to wait till I got it in the right light. Now I could see it. So there we go. That is better. All right, now it's all smooth and shiny like I said it should be. So, all right, let me grab my the greenhouse with the vellum is such a cute idea, and like I said, I totally stole it from the Stampin' Up! Catalog, so I can't even claim it's my own, but I loved it. So so this is the messages die, and I'm just going to take this die and I'm going to lay it right over top of the sentiment, and I'm going to run it through the die cutting machine. Again, the messages die is designed to use with a whole entire stamp set for a whole pile of sentiments, but I'm just not very organized and I never use it that way. So, all right, my die cutting machine is off here to the right, so I'm going to be off screen for 1 second. Hopefully I'll get this lined up on the first shot through. All right. There we go. Okay. And you can see my chewed up cutting pads. Yikes, they're in terrible shape. But I don't know, I use them until they crack on the side because I feel like they lay down flat and easily this way when they're all gnawed up. It looks like the dog has used them as her chew toy. All right, let me get this die out of the way. And we've got our sentiment die cut here. Try to clean up some of the mess so I can actually see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to take a couple Stampin' Dimensionals. Now again, this is hanging off the left-hand side, so I want to make sure that I'm a little careful on the left side of it and don't put a Stampin' Dimensional way over to the left. Because it will then stick to the card front in a kind of odd way like I don't want it to. So it's just kind of floating on the edge there. And then I'm going to take my little half Stampin' Dimensionals and stick a couple of those on the back of my sentiment and then adhere that to the card front. And we're going to be, well, almost done. We have one more thing to add. All right, so I'm just going to layer this over the top of my little greenhouse. And again, the Stampin' Dimensionals will help the greenhouse to kind of stay in place and stay on the card front. So if you were worried about the top of it kind of flopping around, you shouldn't have to worry once you get your sentiment adhered over the top of it. And I'm going to trim these up just a little bit. They're a little longer and more unruly than they probably needed to be. The last thing on the card front, and you probably didn't even notice it when I put it on here, is I've got a couple of the faux sea glass, what are they called? Faux sea glass shapes, I guess. And I had kind of tucked them in and they look sort of like little rocks underneath here. So I wasn't sure. I thought about putting some kind of shiny, rhinestone-y kind of things in there. And after looking at it for a while and trying a couple of rhinestones and I didn't love the way they looked, I finally decided, I think these are going to look kind of cute. And they're in the coordinating colors. They match the Designer Series paper that I'm using. So I just kind of stuck them in and around the bottom of the little greenery pieces, I guess. So again, these are the faux sea glass shapes and they're in the upcoming January to June catalog as well. And all of these things that I'm using today are going to be available on January 4th. So demonstrators can pre-order them now. So if you join as a demonstrator now, you can get your hands on these things. So if you have questions or want to do that, let me know. I'd be happy to chat with you more about it. So I've got, for the inside of the card, kept it pretty simple. I've got just jade ink and the larger of the flower images again. I'm just going to ink that up in just jade ink. And I'm only going to use the one side of it, and just going to stamp it down here on the lower right-hand side. All right. And I don't know if you can see the distinctive part of it, but hopefully you can see where it gives it kind of a layered stamping look, and you don't have to do anything to do that. Just ink it and stamp it, and you're good to go. Then I've got the little flower that I used on the card front in some pale papaya ink. I'm just going to stamp the little flowers here around where the little stems are at. There we go. There's one. And the second one we're going to stamp right in over there. And that's going to be it for the inside of the card. We're all done. So, all right, let me grab some Stampin' Seal, and we're going to stick this together on the inside. And we'll be all done for today. So, there we go. And again, all the cardstock cuts and the details will be posted on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. Oh, goodness, things are flying everywhere. I will be linking it up in this video description. So if you come back tomorrow and take a peek, you will see the link to the all the details about the card, and you can see I'll have a printable PDF tutorial, everything that you need to recreate it if you wanted to do that. So. All right, so that is it for the card. So thanks so much for joining me today. Hope that you like it, and you definitely need to order it. It's a really cute set. Again, it'll be available January 4th when the next catalog goes live for ordering, and Celebration will be starting at that time, so you can get some free products when you order all these goodies, and so it's awesome. All right, the dog is getting ready to bark because somebody just rang the doorbell, so I will let y'all go. I will plan to be back on my YouTube channel live around 2 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, and then back here on Facebook Live around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Tuesday. Chat with you then.